Your father left you that rotting gas station? The scornful voice of Deshawn, her ex-husband, cut deep into Althea's pride. Her whole life, she juggled 2 jobs to raise her twin children, only to be mocked by her family and the man she once loved. Malcolm and Lorraine, her brother and sister, walked out of the lawyer's office with wads of cash. And Althea? Just a deed and a small key. But in that disappointment, a strange sign in the gas station's office began to draw her deeper, and what she was about to uncover wasn't just wealth, but a decades-old hidden legacy. Will that key unlock a treasure, or a nightmare her family could never have foreseen? Atlanta, a swelteringly oppressive afternoon. The air felt heavy, as if testing the already burdened shoulders of Althea Johnson. She stepped out of the old brick building where the will reading had just taken place, clutching a thin folder tightly. While Malcolm, her brother, strutted out with a bulging leather briefcase full of cash, and Lorraine, her sister, gleefully waved a stack of checks like a ticket to a new life. Althea had only a deed to a dilapidated gas station on the outskirts of town, and a key so small it could easily get lost in her pocket. The mocking laughter still rang in her ears. "Dad trusted me, not you," Malcolm had said with smug arrogance. Lorraine smirked. "Freedom fuel? It doesn't even work anymore. Good luck with that pile of junk." And Deshawn, her ex-husband, delivered the final blow. "Even your dad knew you weren't strong enough to hold on to anything worthwhile. You couldn't even keep our marriage together." Those words cut like a knife, making Althea bite her lip until it bled. She remembered the long nights working double shifts, sweat soaking her shirt at the soul food diner, just to cover rent and provide for her twin children, Zion and Amara. Those innocent eyes were the only reason she kept going, and now, with the world seemingly turning its back on her, they remained her sole anchor. She gripped the key tightly in her hand. It didn't gleam like the checks, nor did it promise instant comfort. But the lawyer's eyes had held something strange when he handed it to her. "He instructed me to give this to you, and you alone," he'd said. At the time, Althea didn't understand, but a tiny, stubborn seed of doubt had been planted in her heart. The next day, as sunlight slanted through cracked windows, Althea drove her beat-up sedan to the outskirts with her kids. The highway was lined with rusted billboards, and finally, Freedom Fuel came into view, an abandoned gas station like a scar in the heart of the city. The faded sign, rusted tin roof, and dust-covered fuel pumps were cloaked in cobwebs. Amara whispered, "Mom, this place looks scary." Zion, curious, ran around inspecting it like an abandoned fortress. Althea stepped into the small office. The smell of grease mixed with damp wood assaulted her senses. Dust coated the desk, untouched for years. She pulled open a drawer, finding a mess of papers, old invoices, tattered receipts, but then a brown envelope fell out. Inside were passports with unfamiliar names, foreign currency from various countries, and a small notebook filled with cryptic symbols. Althea's heart raced. Her father, Luther Johnson, had been a simple man, so why would he leave this? She touched the key. It fit perfectly into a small slot under the cashier's counter. A soft click sounded, and a metal panel popped open, revealing a locked box. Althea pulled it out, dust swirling, and inside, no gold, no cash, just a small map, marking a spot within the gas station itself. The humiliation of the will reading still burned, but now it mingled with a spark of mystery. She knew. Her father had entrusted her with something greater than money. And that key didn't just open an old drawer. It unlocked a door no one in her family had ever touched. Dear audience, pause for a moment to subscribe to the channel before diving into the main story, but only if you truly connect with what I'm sharing here. Leave a comment below to let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. It's fascinating to see people from all over joining us. The afternoon sun cast a sickly yellow glow over Freedom Fuel, turning it into a grotesque shadow by the highway. Althea stood still, staring at the cracked brick walls, listening to the wind whistle through the gaps. Something felt both foreign and familiar, as if this place had been waiting for her. Zion and Amara ran around, their footsteps echoing in the empty lot. The boy playfully tapped the old fuel pumps, the hollow metal clanging like a warning. Amara clung to her mother's sleeve, eyes wide with fear but unable to look away. Althea pushed open the cracked glass door and stepped into the office. The dim space was lit only by light filtering through tattered curtains, illuminating thick layers of dust. She turned on her phone's flashlight, sweeping it around. Faded 90 seconds posters still clung to the walls, nearly colorless. The wooden desk was rotting, the swivel chair broken, papers scattered, as if someone had left in a hurry. She bent down to pick up a folder. Inside weren't everyday invoices, but strange documents, lists of names, international addresses, and photos of passports with unfamiliar faces. All bore faint official stamps, not the kind of paperwork an ordinary gas station owner would have. Althea's heart pounded. She recalled the small notebook from the brown envelope. The symbols in it suddenly matched numbers scribbled on these documents. The more she read, the clearer it became. Her father had lived a life her family never knew. Zion shouted from a corner, "Mom, there's a weird box here." Althea rushed over. Under the cashier's counter, Zion had found a small slot. She inserted the rusty key. Another click sounded, sending a shiver through her. A hidden safe slid out, dust swirling in the air. Inside was a stack of foreign currency, dollars, euros, pounds, all crisp, along with fake IDs bearing her father's face at different ages. There were Polaroid photos of unfamiliar places, a building in Berlin, an alley in Havana, a dock in Lagos. But what stole Althea's breath was a neatly folded map. Hand-drawn blue ink traced the layout of Freedom Fuel. A red arrow pointed downward, right where this office stood. Scrawled beside it, "If you found this, it's time you know the truth." Althea trembled, clutching the paper. Since childhood, she'd always sensed her father was different, disappearing for weeks, returning with weary eyes but no explanations. Her mother had died young, and Luther Johnson never spoke of his real work. Malcolm and Lorraine thought him a cold, useless man. But now, the strange pieces were falling into place. She turned to her children, their wide eyes fixed on her. "Mom, did Grandpa leave us a treasure?" Amara whispered. Althea gave a faint smile, but unease stirred within her. This wasn't treasure. It was a secret, and secrets always brought danger. She carefully tucked everything away, slipping the map into her jacket pocket. But just then, a sharp metallic screech came from the lot, like someone forcing a lock. Althea froze. Zion started to run out, but she grabbed him tightly. Her heart pounded, ears straining. The sound vanished as quickly as it came, leaving an eerie silence. Someone was watching her. Althea knew, the moment she received that key, her life would never be peaceful again. All right, my dear audience. If you're still here and find this story gripping, comment 1, or "I'm still here to keep listening." Althea held her breath, eyes glued to the map. The red arrow pointed straight to the office floor. Her hand touched the cracked tiles, cold against her palm. Her children watched, restless with curiosity. "Zion, Amara, stay close to me," she instructed, her voice low but firm. She pushed the old desk aside with all her strength, revealing a small iron hatch in the floor. Her hands shook as she tried the brass key. It fit perfectly, turning with a heavy click. A dry clank sounded, and the hatch slowly opened, releasing dust and the smell of rusted iron. Below was a narrow staircase descending into darkness. Heart pounding, Althea turned on her flashlight and stepped down, her children close behind. The air in the basement was cold and thick, smelling of engine oil and old paper. The light swept over thick concrete walls. The basement opened into a space larger than expected, more like a secret hub than a storage room. A shortwave radio, a world map pinned with red markers, and dozens of filing cabinets lined the walls. A metal desk sat at the center, stacked with thick folders stamped classified. Zion's jaw dropped. "Wow, this looks like a spy movie." Amara clung to her mother's shirt, whispering, "Mom, was Grandpa a spy?" Althea swallowed hard and approached the desk. On it sat an old computer with a dark screen, next to a USB drive labeled, "For my daughter, AJ." Her heart clenched. A.J. Her initials, Althea Johnson. She sat down and plugged in the USB. The screen flickered, then displayed a video. The image shook slightly, revealing an older man than she remembered. Silver hair, tired eyes, but still sharp. Her father, Luther Johnson. "Althea, if you're watching this, it means I'm gone," his voice rasped, steady but resolute. "I'm sorry for all the years of silence. The truth is, I wasn't just a gas station manager. I was an asset for the National Security Agency, embedded since the late 82nds. Althea's breath caught. Her children fell silent, eyes wide. Freedom Fuel, Luther continued, was never just a gas station. It was a rendezvous point, a safe house for exchanging information between agents and defectors. Every trip you remember, when I disappeared for weeks, those were missions. I saved lives, but I also made enemies. He paused, taking a deep breath, his eyes heavy with sorrow. Malcolm and Lorraine think they knew me, but they only saw the surface. I kept you out of this whirlwind because you have a kind heart, because you deserved a normal life. But if you're here, it means the secret can't stay buried forever. The screen shifted to images of folders. Luther pointed. In those documents are contact lists, secret accounts, and evidence against those who worked with Malcolm and Lorraine. They let themselves get pulled into dirty deals. I knew one day you'd have to face them. Be careful, because they're not just jealous. They could be dangerous. Althea's hands trembled. Her own siblings, involved in something dark? And you, Althea. Luther looked directly into the camera, his voice slow. I left this station to you because I trust you. I trust your resilience, your integrity. Behind the west wall of this basement is another safe. Inside are keys to accounts I built over a lifetime, enough for you and the kids to never worry about food or shelter. But more importantly, I want you to use it wisely, to protect, not destroy. The image froze, his voice breaking with emotion. I'm proud of you, Mihija. If you choose to continue this work, there will be people to help you. Trust them. Trust yourself. The screen went black. The basement fell silent. Only Althea's ragged breathing and her pounding heart filled the space. Zion broke the quiet. Mom, was Grandpa a hero? Althea pulled her children close, tears streaming down her face. Yes, Grandpa was a hero, but now the responsibility is ours. Suddenly, a beep sounded from the screen. Red text flashed. Perimeter breach. North entry. Althea froze. Someone was trying to break into Freedom Fuel. Was it just a random vagrant? Or the enemies Luther had warned about? Coming to settle a blood debt? The computer screen still flashed its red warning. Perimeter breach. North entry. The steady beep rang like a death knell. Althea stood rigid, clutching her children, eyes fixed on the concrete ceiling. Above, a heavy metallic groan sounded, as if someone was prying open a door. In the darkness, cold sweat dripped down Althea's spine. She pulled Zion and Amara deeper into the basement's corner, her heart racing so fast it choked her. Every sound, footsteps, the creak of iron, was crystal clear. Someone was inside, and they knew exactly what they were looking for. A loud bam echoed. The north door had been smashed open. The sound of boots hitting the concrete floor pounded in her mind. Not one person, several. In that moment, Luther's words from the video replayed. You must be careful. They're not just jealous. They could be dangerous. She trembled, but her motherly instincts surged. There was no room for fear anymore, only survival. She pulled her children to the far end of the basement, where her father's map had marked. Just as he'd said, a section of the wall looked different, a metal frame hidden under concrete. She found a small lock and inserted the brass key. A click sounded, and a narrow steel door swung open. Inside was a dark space, just big enough for the three of them to squeeze into. They slipped inside just as a flashlight beam swept down the staircase. A gruff voice echoed, "Search this place. Luther hid something. Don't miss anything." Althea held her children tightly, her heart pounding like it might burst. The flashlight beam swept through, grazing inches from their hiding spot. Shadows moved, papers were torn, drawers yanked open, cabinets smashed. The sounds in the darkness stretched Althea's nerves to the breaking point. Through the crack in the door, she saw something that froze her blood. The silhouette of Malcolm, her brother. His familiar face, but his eyes dark, glinting with greed and coldness. He wasn't alone. Two hulking men like mercenaries flanked him. "We need the documents. If Luther told her, she's got the key," Malcolm's voice echoed, laced with venom. Althea bit her lip until it bled. Her, that was her. Her own brother was hunting her, alongside strangers she'd never seen. The sound of shattering furniture, frantic footsteps, then Malcolm's roar. "There's nothing here! Search harder! Luther didn't die, leaving nothing. She must know something." After agonizing minutes, they finally left. The heavy iron door slammed shut, returning the basement to oppressive silence. Althea slumped to the floor, holding her trembling children. The pain of betrayal tore her apart. Her brother, who once held her hand to school, had become her enemy. She looked at her children, their eyes shining with both fear and resolve. In that moment, Althea knew there was no turning back. Her father had handed her a dangerous legacy, and now it had pulled her entire family into its vortex. The next day, as dawn broke, Althea locked the basement tight and took her children home. But before she could rest, her phone rang. It was Lorraine, her sister, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "Althea, you still holding on to that gas station? Sell it to me. You can't afford to fix it. I'll pay $50,000, more than it's worth." Althea gripped the phone, her heart tightening. The offer seemed generous, but Lorraine's voice carried an unnatural urgency. She knew something. Both Malcolm and Lorraine weren't acting randomly. As Althea hesitated, another message popped up. From an unknown number, "We know you have the map. Hand it over, or the ones you love will pay." The phone screen blurred in Althea's eyes. The intruders from last night hadn't stopped, and now, her own family was tightening the noose. My dear audience, are you still with us? Take a moment to relax, maybe grab a glass of water, and keep listening to this gripping story. Comment 1 if you find it thrilling. Don't forget to hit subscribe. The next morning, as faint sunlight filtered through the curtains of her small apartment, Althea hadn't slept. All night, she'd held her children close, jumping at every strange sound in the hallway, as if enemies could burst in any moment. The threatening message from the unknown number lingered on her phone screen, a reminder that the noose was tightening by the hour. She was brewing cheap coffee when a knock came at the door. Not rushed, not loud. Just 3 slow, deliberate knocks. Althea shivered. Who would come to her now? Through the peephole, she saw a woman, in her 60s, sturdy, with short silver hair and eyes sharp as a blade. In her hand was a worn ID card, its front engraved with Central Intelligence Agency. "Althea Johnson?" The woman's voice was low but clear. "I'm Evelyn Carter. I worked with Luther." Althea hesitated, her instincts screaming to slam the door. But there was something familiar in the woman's eyes, something she'd seen in her father's weary gaze, a mix of harshness and kindness. Evelyn stepped inside, followed by a tall young man in a simple shirt, his movements disciplined. He introduced himself. "Marcus Green, CIA agent. I'm assigned to monitor the legacy Luther left behind." The name Marcus startled Althea, too close to her traitorous brother's name. But this man's eyes were different. Calm, steady, controlled. Evelyn placed an envelope on the table. Inside was a photo of a young Luther in military fatigues, standing beside her and others. "Your father wasn't just a spy. He was one of the most critical assets in our network for 3 decades. Freedom Fuel was never just a gas station. It was a safe house, and it still holds value." Althea's throat tightened as she stared at the photo. Her father, the stern old man she'd known, now appeared in a new light, brave, mysterious, tied to national missions. "Why did he leave it all to me?" Althea whispered, almost to herself. Evelyn answered slowly. "Because he believed in you," Luther said. "Of all his children, only you had a heart both strong and kind. Malcolm and Lorraine, their greed blinded them. He knew they'd betray him, but you're different." Althea clenched her fists, recalling her brother's cold eyes in the basement last night. Pain and fury surged within her. Marcus Green opened his briefcase, pulling out a file. "We've been monitoring from afar. Malcolm and Lorraine have connected with an international crime syndicate, arms dealers. They believe Luther's legacy holds information worth hundreds of millions, and they're not the only ones looking. That message you got, likely from them." Althea's blood ran cold. She saw it clearly now, caught between her betraying family and the vast underground network her father left behind. Evelyn looked her in the eye, her voice firm. "Althea, you have 2 choices. 1, sell the gas station, leave the city, live a normal life. 2, take up the role Luther left you. Become the keeper of Freedom Fuel, using it as a link to protect the community and the nation. But know this, if you choose the second path, there's no turning back." The room fell silent. Amara clung to her mother. Zion stared at Evelyn with innocent awe. Althea looked at her children, then at the photo of her father, smiling in his uniform. Two opposing fires clashed in her heart. One, a longing to escape the darkness, to live peacefully with her children. The other, the weight of her legacy, the Johnson blood, urging her to rise, no matter the danger ahead. Evelyn gently placed a hand on Althea's shoulder, her eyes softening. "You're not alone. Luther left allies. We're here, and we'll stand by you. But the final decision is yours." Althea took a deep breath, her hand unconsciously gripping the crumpled map in her pocket. Her eyes began to burn with resolve. A photo on her phone screen froze Althea's blood. Zion and Amara, her children, captured from a distance, clearly taken outside their school. The message was short. "The map, or your kids disappear." The phone slipped from her hand, clattering to the floor. Althea collapsed to her knees, clutching her chest as if her heart had been torn apart. Evelyn swiftly grabbed the phone, her eyes razor-sharp. Marcus snatched it, typing commands to trace the signal. "It's coming from within the city," Marcus muttered, his eyes flashing. "Likely Malcolm's group." Althea looked up, eyes red. "My brother. Would he do this to his own niece and nephew?" Evelyn placed a hand on her shoulder, her voice heavy. "Greed turns people into monsters. Luther warned us long ago." That afternoon, the CIA set up an ambush. They tracked Malcolm and Lorraine to an abandoned warehouse on Atlanta's south side. From a hidden car, Althea's heart pounded as she watched her siblings enter. With them were not just strangers but Candace, Deshawn's new wife, in an expensive dress, carrying a briefcase full of papers. Through binoculars, Marcus explained, "Candace is a key link. She launders money for this syndicate through her real estate firm. And now, they want control of Freedom Fuel to expand their network." Althea bit her lip, humiliation and rage mixing. Her family, who once belittled her, now stood with her enemies. Inside the warehouse, Malcolm's voice crackled through a comm. "We have the map, and soon we'll have Luther's safe. That weakling Althea can't hold on to anything. She's as frail as her mother." Those words stabbed like a blade. Althea's nails dug into her palms. Evelyn whispered, "This is the truth. Now you see it clearly." Marcus sent the signal. In an instant, green lights flashed around the warehouse. Iron doors burst open. FBI and CIA agents stormed in, guns raised. Shouts, boots pounding, metal clashing echoed. Malcolm and Lorraine panicked but were quickly subdued. Candace tried to erase her laptop's data but was tackled, her briefcase of cash spilling across the floor. The chaos was a storm, sweeping everything away. Althea stood outside, tears streaming. Seeing her siblings cuffed and dragged out, their faces twisted in fear and shame, was both painful and bitter. These were the people who called her worthless, now exposed in the light. Lorraine screamed as she was led away. "You think you've won, Althea? You don't know what Dad left you. It'll destroy you." Malcolm glared, spitting words. "They won't stop. That fortune, it'll be your grave." Those final words haunted Althea. She knew, even with the FBI's arrests, the real masterminds were still in the shadows. Candace was let out last. Passing by, she didn't cry or scream, only smirked with contempt. "Deshawn will come back to me, not you. And when he does, he'll take everything, even your kids." Althea froze. The old pain of her ex-husband became a new threat. As the dust settled, Evelyn turned to Althea. "You see now, this isn't just about family. It's a war for power, money, and national secrets. If you don't stand up, others will come, far more ruthless." Marcus nodded, his voice steady. "But you're not alone. Freedom Fuel isn't just a legacy. It's a stronghold. And you're the key." In the darkness, Althea clenched her fists, a new fire igniting within. She was no longer the scorned woman. She was the one who could preserve Luther Johnson's legacy. But could she bear this mission as darker, more brutal shadows closed in? And with her heart still torn by feelings for Deshawn, would her trust be shattered again? A month later, Freedom Fuel's facade was transformed. The old, crumbling sign was replaced with a bold, new one. Dark green with white letters, Luther Johnson Memorial Station. The fuel pumps gleamed with fresh paint, the small counter inside now a convenience store and cafe. Customers, long-haul truckers, local workers, came and went, unaware the place they stopped at was once the heart of an underground intelligence network. Althea stood behind the counter, wiping a glass mug, her eyes watching Zion and Amara play outside. The children laughed, drawing with chalk on the new concrete. To them, the station was a second home, a safe place, a childhood memory. But deep underground, the basement remained. The filing cabinets, radio, and Luther's safe were now under Althea's control. Evelyn and Marcus had helped her set up security, hidden cameras, bulletproof steel doors, and a secret comms network linked to the CIA. Freedom Fuel was now both a livelihood and a hidden fortress. In the quiet of late nights, when customers were gone, Althea sat alone in the basement. The dim light illuminated her face, revealing lines of exhaustion but also a glint of resolve. She replayed her father's video, listening to his words, his breaths, as if he were still there, guiding her forward. Zion often asked, "Mom, will I get to continue Grandpa's work one day?" Althea smiled, resting a hand on his shoulder. "You will, but not by fighting like him. You'll protect this community with integrity." Amara hugged her, eyes shining. "We're not the family left behind anymore, are we, Mom?" Althea pulled her daughter close. "No, we're the family that leads the way." The news blared. Malcolm and Lorraine were formally charged. Candace faced trial for money laundering. Deshawn had vanished from the city, leaving behind debts and a lingering wound in Althea's heart. But she refused to sink into resentment. She'd stepped out of that shadow. One afternoon, Evelyn stopped by, sipping coffee at the freshly painted wooden table. She looked at Althea, her eyes both stern and proud. "You've done what few would dare, preserved a legacy and turned it into a new beginning." Marcus, checking a concealed device in the corner, looked over, his voice steady. "But be ready. Taking down Malcolm and Lorraine was just the start. The ones behind them, they're still out there." Althea nodded, her gaze fixed on the sky, now painted red with sunset. She knew the war wasn't over. Her father had opened this door, and now it was her duty to walk through, no matter how dark the path ahead. That night, as she locked up the station, an envelope slipped under the door. No name, no trace. Inside was an old photo. Luther Johnson standing beside a stranger in a black suit. On the back, scrawled words, "The game has just begun." Althea gripped the photo, her heart pounding like a drum. In the darkness, Freedom Fuel's new sign glowed like a beacon. But she knew a beacon draws both ships in need of rescue, and shadows lurking from afar. Freedom Fuel, once the family's laughingstock, has become a symbol of strength. In the darkness, Althea didn't just uncover her father's secrets. She found her true self, a mother, a leader, a keeper of the flame for the next generation. She faced her siblings' betrayal, her ex-husband's deceit, and the reach of shadowy forces. But instead of falling, Althea chose to rise, turning pain into power. Her story reminds us, the greatest legacy parents leave isn't money, but the courage to face fear and see it through. Yet, a new door is opening. Who is the man in that mysterious photo? A missing piece of Luther's past, or a new storm awaiting Althea? And you, when faced with your family's legacy, be it duties, wounds, or secrets, will you run or stand your ground? Share your thoughts in the comments. Spread this video to share its message of inner strength. And hit follow, because Althea's journey is just beginning. Part 2 will reveal truths you won't want to miss.